This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, and welcome back to another realistic sustainability educational short. Sometimes you hear me say words in different episodes, and I don't always elaborate, so I'm going to take a minute and talk about the term scarcity. I know you've heard me say it, but what does scarcity really mean? A lot of times people think it just means that we're running short on a supply, which in spirit is true, but it's a little bit different than that. There are two kinds of ways to look at scarcity. One of those ways is a shortage, which is how they describe it in economics. For an example, in the 70s, there was a shortage of gasoline. Now, they said gas was scarce because there wasn't any extra gas in the United States, but there was gas on the planet. There was plenty of gasoline. We just didn't have any because of the embargo. So we had a shortage. Same thing with our oceans. We're overfishing our oceans. Fish are becoming harder and harder to find. But if we just stopped fishing them, there'd be a heck of a lot more fish. The population would boom back up. And that's not normal scarcity. That's just short supply. We've induced it. We've created that short supply. The same thing as right now, we're talking about vaccinations. COVID-19 vaccinations are in short supply. That's why they're making sure that the right people get them first that are the most vulnerable. It's not that they're scarce. We can make more. It's when you can't make more that something truly becomes scarce. That's the scary part. Scarcity is something that we're using up, but we don't necessarily have a good way to get more of it. I use it primarily for materials. Precious metals, for an example. There's a lot of metals that are going scarce. Things we use for circuit boards. Matter of fact, one of them is going to be lithium. Now that they're mining so much lithium from the planet, there's only so much. And if we don't recycle it, it makes it really challenging to find. Gold, silver, platinum, all these precious metals that do so many wonderful things for us are harder and harder to find in the Earth's crust. Now, are they still here? Absolutely. We've put them in tiny little pieces all over the planet so that it would be really hard to find again. That's why it's so important that we're recycling these items now. Scarcity means we've used it up and we can't find any more. That's a big deal for a society that runs on computers. If we run out, we're in deep trouble. In 2011, there was 11 elements on the periodic table considered to be scarce, that they were starting to have a hard time getting. In 2020, that number's jumped to 30. More and more. I told you about lithium, but silicone is another one. That is all of our computer boards. These things are becoming harder and harder to find each and every day. If we don't recycle them, they're just kind of gone. At some point, I can imagine landfills selling the rights for companies to go dig through the pile like we threw away our trash and forgot that there was a check in it or something. They're going to be digging through, looking for gold and platinum and other materials that they need to build our devices. One of the reasons why we started to see companies buy back cell phones. All of those pieces inside that cell phone have value, and it's always been amazing that we've just thrown them away. Scarcity? Scarcity's a big deal. That's one of those things, kind of like when your parents used to say, well, you can do that, but when it's gone, it's gone. Well, here on Earth, we can do that. But when it's gone, it's gone. I hope you enjoyed this educational short, and I hope you have a better idea of the difference between scarcity and shortage. I appreciate you listening. If you get an opportunity and you're listening to this show on Apple Podcast, leave us a review. I found that the more people who leave reviews, the more people who can find us. We greatly appreciate that. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Feeling overwhelmed by climate change? Looking for sustainable and ethical brands to support? Then Ethic is perfect for you. Ethic is a simple browser extension that helps you find sustainable and ethical brands online. Learn more at ethyk.org, ethyk.org.